Hi, kiddos. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back. Hope you had a lovely weekend. I posted a few announcements on Classroom, so make sure you head over there and just take a look and read through those. But if not, we're going to dive right in today. What we're doing today should be pretty quick and easy. Um, but I think you'll really enjoy it. It's a fun and different thing than we've done so far. So our I can statement is I can understand that all parts of a poem work together to create meaning. So guys, this is something that we've really worked with a lot, especially this meaning part, right? Working on creating meaning because we talk about all the time that writers do things intentionally. They don't make any mistakes. Everything they put in, they do on purpose, right? So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at today is what is the meaning behind some of these poems? And this is something that you guys have had some experience with. So all parts of the poem work together to make meaning, right? All your stanzas, all your lines, especially with poetry, guys, right? Like when there's so little, like a lot of them have very few lines, they really are trying to create meaning in a very short amount of time. Right? So you have to figure out how they work together, the parts of the poem, to create some message or some story. So readers ask themselves, how does this part fit with what I read before? If it doesn't fit, you ask yourself, how can I fill in my thinking so that there is a connection between parts, right? How can I connect the parts if I don't see the connection right in front of me? What does the title mean in the beginning of the poem, and what does the title mean now? This would be meaning like at the end of the poem. Okay, so we're gonna look at we're gonna look at all four. 3 and 4 are going to combine, but we're going to look at the title and we're also going to look at how parts fit together in a poem. That's what you're going to do today. So oftentimes when you're reading poetry and novels too, we realize that the end offers new insights, right? The end is the part where so many of you come up to me like, Miss Krell, you're never going to believe I found out who this person was and how that worked and how they were connected, right? So we use the end of our poems the same way. They offer new insights, new understandings as to what was happening in the poem. You can read and then reread the final lines to make sure you understand how they make sense of the rest of the text, right? How did they finish the poem? How does it relate to the rest of it? How does it relate to the title? So we're going to do this. You're going to do this in your poetry packet. And so we're going to do an example. And so I am doing this poem by Tupac. It's called The Rose That Grew from Concrete. So before I even get started, I want to look at this third question. What does the title mean in the beginning of the poem? So I'm going to make a prediction for what the title, The Rose That Grew from Concrete. So I think this title might mean, so I'm thinking like rose that grew from concrete. That's not an ideal situation for a rose to grow. So I think it might mean that a person overcame hard, hard situations to grow and learn something. Because I'm thinking, right, a rose growing from concrete, that's not where you think a rose grows in a garden with soil and sunlight and nutrients. So if it grew from concrete, I think it might mean that a person or a person or thing overcame a hard situation to grow and to learn something. So that's going to be my prediction for the title. So I'm going to have you guys do this too. You're going to make a prediction for your title before you read. So now let's read together. Did you hear about the rose that grew from a crack in the concrete? Proving nature's law is wrong. It learned to walk without having feet. Funny it seems, but by keeping its dreams, it learned to breathe fresh air. Long live the rose that grew from the concrete when no one ever cared. So, right away, guys, when I start looking at this poem, The Rose That Grew from Concrete, I want to think about how it's pieced together, right? The mine that I'm looking at right now is just one big, it's just one stanza. There's really no breaks in the lines. But you can see that, like right here, proving nature's law is wrong. It didn't feel natural for me to put that it there. So to help myself make sense of it, I moved the it down. So proving nature's law is wrong. It learned to walk without having feet. So I want you to start always by trying to make sense of the poem, right? Trying to make it easier to read on the page. If it's written in a way that's hard to read on the page, like the words are split up or the text not positioned in expected ways, you can try rewriting it either in your notebook or on a piece of paper to understand the order of the words and how they go together. Okay, because that is going to make it a lot easier for you to understand the poem. So that's the first thing that I'm going to want you guys to do. After that, I want you to come over here and I want you to answer this question. What is happening in this poem? And I want you to really think about the meaning in this poem. And so, again, guys, these are opinions. This is what I think this poem is about. So when I think about the rose that grew from concrete, I think the rose is a metaphor, which we talked about, right? Metaphor, which we've talked about is comparing two things, right? Not using like or as, it's just a comparison of two things. And so I think it was a metaphor for the author, who is Tupac. Coming out of a hard situation, like his childhood, maybe. I know that I have some background on him, so this is why I think this, but he grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so I think it's coming out of his childhood and his neighborhood to make something of himself. So I think he used the rose as a metaphor. The metaphor is really comparing him and his success. Right, so the author Tupac is coming out of a hard situation, his childhood and his neighborhood, to make something of himself. Right, he became a really famous rapper, and so I think that's what he's talking about. So then going back to what does this title mean now? So I think I made um, a pretty accurate prediction. However, even if you want to change one little thing, that's fine too. So the first time I said I think this title might mean that the person or thing overcame a hard situation to grow and to learn. So I think this title now means that Tupac was able to get out of his neighborhood to better his life. But it did change a little bit, right? I think I made it a little bit more personal to actually what was going on in the poem. This one was a little bit more just general because I didn't exactly know what it was going to be about. And then this bottom poem, or this bottom part, I really talk about the author and the impact that this has on his life. So these are the 3 questions that I want you to answer today. I will put them at the bottom of this doc so you can just copy and paste them. I'll put them down here for you so you can just copy and paste them into your poetry packet. That being said, there's not going to be a task today. You're just going to head to your poetry packet and you're going to make annotations in the side. Another just quick note that I wanted to point out, if you're doing a poem that has stanzas, right, like this is Just to Say by William Carlos Williams, sometimes it helps to analyze stanza by stanza, right? What's happening in stanza 1, what's happening in stanza 2, and then what this would be 1, 2, and what's happening in stanza 3. And at the end, answering this question of what is happening in this poem. Sometimes it helps to break it up when you're doing multiple stanzas. If you're doing a longer one, like this song by Carrie Underwood, The Champion, maybe you're grouping them, right? What do these 2 stanzas mean? What does the the chorus mean? And just taking a couple of notes as you read through it. But so no task for today. Your task is simply to read read a poem and then annotate in your poetry packet. Please let me know if you have questions. I am available for office hours this morning, and then I'll be around by email this afternoon. Have a lovely day, guys.